Now, I know at the end of One World Under Doom, I said we weren't going to start anything new. We will only cover the stuff that we're already covering. But come on now. Weapons X-Men, a team that has Wolverine, Deadpool, and Cable? You know we're going to cover that. My name is Dorian. This is SEO Comics. We're starting our coverage of Weapon X-Men. But number one, our story starts off with Wolverine tearing through some old Sentinels, like way back in the day Sentinels. And after he tears through them, he comes across a dude named Kyber. Now, he's nobody special, like very low on the totem pole, but he did have aluminium in his components, and pretty much now it's all gone. Which, if you've been reading the Wolverine series, you know that he's dealing with that in his book. But if you want to know what's going on, we've been covering it. Link to the playlist will be in the description. Then we cut to Wolverine. He's in a bar. He's been telling the story to this dude who is drunk off his behind. And Wolverine's like, glad you listened. You don't remember a thing. He gathers things. He hops on the elevator. He's listening to some crazy elevator music. When all of a sudden, this green gas starts coming through the ceiling. To make matters worse, somebody blows up the pulley engine on the elevator and he starts to free fall. And I guess he was pretty high up, because when it crashes into the lobby, there is a huge explosion. And then Wolverine gets out the elevator and goes, damn it, guess I gotta change hotels. So at his new hotel, Wolverine is taking a shower, drinking on something, when all of a sudden Deadpool shows up and is like, don't forget to wash behind your ears. Wolverine's like, damn it, Wade, what do you want? And then he goes, is it me or does it smell like wet dog in here? Well, come to find out, the stuff that he was drinking is hydrogen peroxide. Reason being is whatever he inhaled is kind of messing with his healing factor, and he's trying to flush it all out. So then Deadpool's like, well, just to let you know, I heard through the grapevine that someone tried to punch your ticket. Wolverine's like, yeah, no genius. Someone's always trying to punch my ticket. Comes with the territory of being Wolverine. When all of a sudden somebody calls Wolverine's name telepathically, Wolverine goes outside his hotel. This big old huge helicopter being flown by Cable, and Cable's like, I already got time to explain, just get dressed. So the Wolverine in the helicopter, he's like, no more voices in my head, Summers. Just talk to me normal. Who's the target and how you tracking it? Especially since your one-eyed daddy got the only active cerebro. And then Cable's like, saying what I found you. I got eyes and ears everywhere. But then he's like, I don't know why he's here. Talking about Deadpool. And if you guys remember like the Cable Deadpool comic books back in the day, like those were some really fun comic books. Like, let me know in the comments if you remember reading Cable and Deadpool, and if you would like me to like cover it on the channel after we close some things out. Like, we got to stop some things before we add some things. Let me know in the comments. So the Wolverine's like, who are we rescuing and from where? And Cable's like, if I said it out loud, you might change your mind. But don't worry, we'll get there. But first, we need to make a quick pit stop to London. And they're there to recruit Chamber. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Zorn and Chamber had pretty much been used as props more than they've been used as characters. Like in Sins of Sinister, Chamber was like what they used as their engine to power their spaceships. And then like Zorn was killed instantly, but his head was used in a weapon that Myra X used to slice her way through the timeline. It's good to see these characters actually being used as characters again. Like Zorn is in the mainline X-Men book, which we're covering on the channel, and we see Chamber is in this. It's probably going to last like 5 issues, but hey, he's here. And of course, he's wondering what the hell Cable, Deadpool, and Wolverine is doing here. And they're getting straight to the point. Well, Chamber's like, all right, well, why don't we take this outside? Because, you know, I don't need everybody and their mama thinking that this is like a mutant convention. I'm thinking to myself, half of your face is gone and they don't know that you're not a mutant. So while they're outside, they finally get Chamber to agree to come along. And Deadpool's like, oh, this feels like a real team. This might be the greatest mutant strike force team ever. They might even call us Weapon X-Men. And of course, Wolverine is having enough of it. He's like, can we go now, please? So 2 hours later, Wolverine's put on his mask and is like, well, hope you guys got your shots, because this place is extremely hazardous. Welcome back to Eastern Europe's favorite vacation spot, Latveria. So Deadpool's like, doesn't the guy who runs this place like also running the world right now? And Cable's like, calm down, we'll be fine. We're kind of far away from Doomsday anyway. Well, all of a sudden Wolverine goes heads up and there's a big huge explosion, and then we see his crater and one of Doom's cyborg guards is in the crater. And then they look around and there's a bunch of cyborg guards and they're all beat the hell up. So they're wondering what the hell happened to all these guards, and then finally they turn the corner and they see it's Thunderbird. So Deadpool's like, Thunderbird? I thought he was dead. And Wolverine's like, yeah, I was there when he died, but they brought him back from Krakoa. I better go try to talk to him since I'm the only person here that actually knows. So Wolverine walks up to him and Thunderbird caves his chest in, which is saying something because he's got the adamantium skeleton. And Wolverine is hurt. hurt. And Thunderbird's like, oh man, I didn't mean to. I'm like, whew, could have fooled me. So Thunderbird takes off. Wolverine, who can barely talk, like, look, I'll be fine, but you need to go after him. I'll catch up to you guys whenever I heal. And like I said, Wolverine is hurt, can barely talk. Cable and Chambers run after him. Deadpool says he's going to stay behind to look after Wolverine. So as Wolverine is still trying to catch his breath, Deadpool is monologuing along to the point to where he sounds like a villain. And then Wolverine's like, why do I think that you being here is not a coincidence, Wilson? As Deadpool pulls out a gun and shoots Wolverine in his left eye. I mean, all of it in his left eye. Left eye is just gone. So then Deadpool explains how he's the one who gassed him. He also is the one who dropped the elevator. And he just shot him with an adamantium bullet into his left eye because he needed it to get pretty deep, like damn near touching his brain. Wolverine goes to attack Deadpool when all of a sudden Deadpool pushes a button and that bullet has some kind of electric charge in it and pretty much fricassees Wolverine on the inside to the point to where he is done. So then we cut back to Cable and Chambers, and Cable's like, I need you to keep up the pace. And Chambers like, I wasn't counting on a foot race here. And then Cable sees Thunderbird. It's like, I need you to use your power to take him down. He was like, you sure about that? And Cable's like, look, I need you to use your power because in this crew, we're all one thing. We're a weapon. Now use it. And Chamber does. He gets a direct hit on Thunderbird, and then we see Cable drawing down on Thunderbird's like, all right, you need to start answering my questions here, John. Why are you in Latveria and why you wrecking shop on Doom's bots? And then John's like, damn it, that's none of your business. I'm here for my destiny. So then there's an explosion, and Cable's like, did that come in that direction? Chamber's like, it did. They walk back, and Cable's helicopter is up in flames. And Cable's like, yep, looks like we got double crossed. So then we cut to Deadpool. He's in a weird aircraft. He got Wolverine tied up. And he's like, breaker, breaker, to my mystery man, who's also my benefactor. I am on my way and I have the package. And all of a sudden, we see the mystery benefactor is Baron von Strucker. Man, lately we're getting all the Nazis. Like, whew. Maybe Elon Musk has something to do with this. Deadpool, Deadpool, Deadpool. In the immortal words of Ricky Ricardo, Wade, you got some explaining to do. You'll see it here in a minute why I went to the Lucille Ball show. My name is Dorian. This is SCM Comics. We're continuing our coverage of Weapons X-Men, the number 2. Our story starts off with Deadpool and a knocked out Wolverine in Deadpool's car boat car, whatever you want to call it. And he's talking to us and he's saying, I bet you're wondering why I did a heel turn. You did a heel turn. John Cena did a heel turn. Except for, I thought John Cena was going to be like a cool heel, you know, like he was like back in the day. No, he just whines, complains, and bitch. Like, he doesn't even make good points. Like, I want the old thugonomics John Cena that'll rap on you. You want to turn heel? That's who you should have turned to. Anyway, it's not a wrestling channel. This is a comic book channel. So let's get back to the comic book. So it's like me and Wolverine, we always had our differences, but we was always able to get past them. No matter what kind of strife may come our way. And he spells strife, S-T-R-Y-F-E. I see you, Wade. I see you. And he even fully admits that he doesn't even know who hired him, which he never does. He always normally does a background check on whoever brings him in. just in case he has to shoot him in the head. All of a sudden, he's driving towards, or floating, whatever he's doing, towards this big old city. They either came out the water or just sitting on top of the water. I don't know. It's comics. And he grabs Wolverine. He's like, dude, he is heavier than what he looks. All I was thinking to myself was, you of all people should know it's the aluminium. Come on now. Anyway, he's talking to us and he's like, I think you guys will appreciate this one. And he goes, Lucy, I'm home. And that's why I said what I said in the intro. So these guys in masks walk up to him and he's like, hey, this guy's heavier than what he looks. But they have a floating gurney, so I don't think they really care. And as they're walking, he's like, man, this is extremely impressive here. I mean, extremely, really good layout here. All of a sudden, you hear somebody goes, your level of swagger betrays a level of fear. That's what you should be afraid. And all of a sudden, Wade goes, should I say hell Hydra? And he goes, no. Those are empty gestures of a bygone era. As we see, it's Baron von Strucker, which we saw in the last video. But for those of you guys who didn't watch the last video, ta-da! So of course Deadpool wants to know why Baron von Strucker wants Wolverine so bad, and as they load him up into some kind of like capsule, and he goes, the time has come to finally burn it all down, and he is going to make that happen. So then we cut to Latveria, where you got Cable, Chambers, and Thunderbird, and they're running through the Latverian province, and Chambers is like, where the hell we going? Like, why are we doing all this running? And Cable's like, well, we're running so that no Doombots come and get us. Gotta stay on the move. But Cable's like, but I'm more concerned about Thunderbird. We've been running for 22 miles. 22 miles. What in the hell? And he's like, this dude hasn't said a word. And Thunderbird's like, don't you worry about me, old man. When I need to talk, I'll be talking. So they stop at a lake. And they're like, so why are we here? And the Cable's like, oh, I'm getting our ride. And he uses telekinesis to lift up this old school classic Blackbird. So they get into the Blackbird and Chambers is like, how'd you know this old Blackbird was here? And then Cable's like, Cyclops back in his more militant days, why can't you just say dad? He had a bunch of them commissioned and he hid them in strategic locations just in case any mutant teams need to do like a quick getaway. Like us, right now. So the kid was like, let's get back to Thunderbird. Why were you in Latveria? And Thunderbird's like, none of your damn business. I mean, he probably didn't say it like that, but when I read it, that's how I said it. And he's like, look, I have my reasons. So then we cut back to Deadpool and Baron von Strucker. And Deadpool's like, again, why Wolverine? And then Baron von Strucker is like, for one thing, he's one of a kind, especially with that aluminium skeleton. Two of a kind, because there's this thing called Lord Kenny. And then he's like pressed up against the glass looking at Wolverine, and Deadpool's like, you two need some alone time? But then he explains, back during the Furo's global conquest, it's a good way to say the war, he was like, he was in Madripoor and he saw Wolverine and he saw him taking out all these ninjas. And just the ferocity that he was taking them out. He hasn't seen anything like that before or since. And Deadpool's like, oh, you talking about his berserker rage? He doesn't really like doing that berserker rage. And Baron von Strucker's like, doesn't matter what he likes. The berserker rage is what I need to weaponize. So Deadpool's like, oh, that's a good line. They should put that on the cover. And then Baron von Strucker's like, and in saying that, I don't really need you anymore. As all the goons start taking off their masks, and we see they're all Baron von Struckers. And Deadpool's like, man, those are some really good life model decoys you got there. And Baron von Strucker's like, no. These aren't robots. These are real humans. Just like you and me. I was thinking to myself, like, not like Deadpool. Not like Deadpool. So while they got Deadpool surrounded, the whole time this machine that they got Wolverine in is doing something. And it's pretty much letting Baron von Strucker know the process that it's in and what it's going through. When all of a sudden, the computer goes, enemy aircraft approaching. And Baron's like, what? So then we cut to the Blackbird and Cable's like, I feel like we're getting closer. And Chambers like, how do you know? And Cable's like, see that lightning? That ain't natural. So the Strucker's like, this is not going to be tolerated. You see, I modified this metropolis well beyond its original Hydra engineering. It has this low and localized weather system. So here, I'm in control of the elements. So Cable just knows something bad's going to happen. He's like, you better hang on to your butts because I think soon we're about to be going down. And sure enough, a lightning strike hits the Blackbird and they crash into the water. So Strucker is all proud of himself, and all of a sudden he turns around and he sees all of his clones have been brutally murdered by Deadpool. So then Deadpool's like, I didn't really know what the hell was going on, so I figured the best way to find out was to take the job. And so I did, and now I know, and now I'm here to stop you. So now Strucker is going full Nazi, and he goes, you insolent cur, my destiny will not be denied. And he slams down onto a button, which he could just press the button. You have to slam on the button. You know, like, you guys just slam that like button. Ugh, it just felt icky. So all of a sudden, all these crazy looking Wolverines just start coming out of nowhere. And Strucker goes, these are my WMDs, Wolverines of mass destruction. Whew, the corniness level on that one. Like, I love you, Joe Casey, but man, that was corny. So Deadpool busts out a sword, busts out his machine gun, and he's like, I am locked, stock, and ready to rock. So at first he's handling himself pretty well. You know, he's shooting these things, even though I'm assuming like they're covered in aluminium. So what's bullets really doing? And then all of a sudden one of them grabs him. He's able to like turn around and start shooting him. He's like, back off. But the one comes and slashes off his left arm. He goes, hey, I needed that. But now he's getting like bombarded. Like 3 of them just jump on top of him. And as he's pretty much about to get murdered, which is Deadpool, like he's going to live through it. But he's like, when you were turned around and you were dealing with whoever the intruder was, I happened to shut off the thing that's keeping Wolverine asleep. If you're wondering why I didn't say what it is, because I probably would have pronounced it horribly. And there's this one guy that just hates the way I pronounce things. And all I'm thinking to myself is, after about 30 seconds of hearing me talk, you know what channel this is. Like, you know what you're about to get. So, if you don't like that, why stay? So all of a sudden, Wolverine breaks the glass, and Deadpool's like, took you long enough, as he's probably getting stabbed repeatedly. And then Wolverine's like, Strucker, it's been a long time coming, but we have some unfinished business to take care of. Who knew that Baron Strucker and Wolverine had such an extensive history? Like, these two have animosity for each other that I just never knew existed. Support the comic book industry by visiting your local LCS. My name is Doran. This is SEM Comics. We have continue our coverage of Weapon X-Men. Number 3. Our story starts off somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean, where you have Cable, Thunderbird, and Chamber are making their way through Hydra City, even though they don't know it's Hydra City. You have Baron Von Strucker, who is monologuing. You got Deadpool, who's being jumped by his modified Wolverines that Baron Von Strucker made. And Wolverine is out of his stasis pod, I guess you could say. And now he wants a piece of Baron Von Strucker. And even though Deadpool's fighting these Wolverine robots that are made from aluminium, he still has time to fill us in on exactly what happened in the last 2 issues. He was asked to do a job by an anonymous person. I guess the amount was pretty substantial. But he also felt like there might have been something shady about it. But the only way he could find out who the person is was to do the job. The job was to kidnap Wolverine and bring him to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which he did. Then he finds out it's Baron Von Strucker. So now he goes and he's helping Wolverine to escape because he doesn't want to be beholden to Baron Von Strucker. Oh, and his left arm got cut off, so right now he's fighting with one arm. And Wolverine is doing what Wolverine does, which is hack and slash. And Baron Von Strucker is doing what he does best, monologuing. So then we cut back to Cable, Chambers, and Thunderbird, and they're making their way through Hydra City, which they still don't know it's Hydra City. And they come across this room, and there's this old guy in like this hyperbolic chamber, And they're like, man, this dude is really old. Like, he might be triple digits old. And they're like, well, who is it? And they're like, we don't know. So Cable has to do a deep dive into his mind to find out exactly who this person is. He finds out that this is the original Baron von Strucker, and that his mind is being transferred somewhere else. Now, even though these things look like Wolverine, they have animinium and they have claws like Wolverine, they are not Wolverine. And Wolverine is handling these things. So again, he turns his attention to Baron von Strucker. And Strucker busts out the Satan claws, which I guess he fought Wolverine with these before. But these ones, in particular, are made out of animinium. So Wolverine and Strucker are going at it. Deadpool is still badly outnumbered, and he still only has one arm. But then all of a sudden, his friends come to help him. That's right, Weapon X-Men, Cable, Thunderbird, and Chambers are there to help. And while that's going on, Wolverine is caught with a Sagat uppercut. I mean, he caught him flush. So Cable's trying to come up with a quick battle strategy, and Thunderbird just goes rushing in towards those robotic Wolverines. And he's like, just in case you forgot, I'm still in a bad mood, as he tackles the hell out of these things. And like I said, they're made out of animinium and they got Wolverine's claws, so that might not have been the best idea. So Chambers goes to Cable's like, what do we do? And Cable's like, help him out the best way we can, I guess. And Wolverine is still dealing with Baron von Strucker. He pays him back for that uppercut by doing a hip toss and slamming him on his head. And Chambers and Cable are doing the best they can to help out Thunderbird. You know, Chambers is like, I don't know if he even needs any help, because he is handling these things, even though they are getting their hits in on him. But he's sitting there like crushing one's face with his hands. Like, I don't know if the whole body's made out of animinium. Even if it's not, it is metal, and that is hard to do. Anyway, Thunderbird is handling himself, even though they're getting their hits in too. Deadpool gets some revenge on Baron von Strucker by cutting off his arm, and then Wolverine goes and bumps the hell out of him and was like, you stay out of my business, bub. And Deadpool's like, I'm just trying to help out, you know, especially because I got you into this mess. And Wolverine's pretty much like, I ain't gonna tell you twice. So Wolverine gets a really good shot on Baron von Strucker, and then all this oil starts flying everywhere, and we see that he is a life model decoy. And that's when he lets everybody know that his real body is in the lower levels, practically on death's door, and that he is uploading his consciousness into these fake ass Wolverines. So once Wolverine finds that out, he really doesn't hold back, and he tears right into Baron von Strucker. So Baron von Strucker is sitting there bleeding out, dying. Can a robot bleed out and die? I mean, I guess so. Anyway, he's like, you don't understand. You just did me a favor. Now, the last of my consciousness that's in this LMD is going to go to my new bodies, which are these WMDs, the Wolverines of Mass Destruction, which is still cheesy as hell. And since it's a hive mind, I will be unstoppable. So then Cable's like, all right, we need to stop him from making more of these things. So we need to figure out where he's keeping this animinium at, and we need to cool it down so he can't use it anymore. So Wolverine's like, all right, sounds like a job for Deadpool. And Deadpool's like, really? Me? So then Deadpool finds the vat, and he finds a machine that's keeping the animinium at a 1500 degrees. And he's like, well, I guess I better destroy this thing. Sticks his katana into the thing. It blows up and blows up Deadpool too. Wolverine's like, well, that takes care of that, which Wolverine probably could have did that himself, but why should he have to heal up? Besides, Deadpool has a better healing factor. So then Cable's like, all right, Chambers, you're up next. I need you to use your powers to knock that thing over, which is the vat animinium, which he does. And where's it fall? Right on top of the WMDs. So now they go the way of the death of Wolverine, encased in animinium forever. Even though I guess he got out, so why can't they? Because they're not a main character. That's why. So Wolverine's like, man, I hope we got them all, because I don't never want to deal with Baron von Strucker ever again. And then Deadpool comes carrying Thunderbird. He's like, As I was getting blown up, I saw Thunderbird. He was in pretty bad shape, so I decided to grab him before the Adamantium covered his ass up, and he'd have been in worse shape. So as the island's blowing up, luckily, Baron von Strucker was very prepared, and he had his escape plane ready. So Deadpool's wondering how Cable found out exactly where they were at, and he's like, what, you put a tracking device on Wolverine? And Cable's like, no, actually, it was you, Deadpool. And it reminds him back when they both dealt with the One World Church, and they were both infected with the facade virus, which did a number on both of them. Well, they was able to come up with a cure by mixing Deadpool's blood with Cable's techno-organic virus that he had in him, which was able, I guess, to heal both of them and I guess heal whoever else was infected. Well, ever since then, there's been a little piece of Cable inside the Deadpool this whole time, which made it easy for him to track him down. And Deadpool's like, you know what, that kind of makes sense. I haven't taken a solid poop in forever. Now, I gotta ask you guys a question. Who remembers, like, in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Cable Deadpool comic books? Now, I didn't read a lot of them, but I remember reading some of them. And I remember when Deadpool was interacting with Cable, he wasn't breaking, like, the fourth wall or anything like that. Like, he said some off-the-wall stuff, you know, he was pretty crazy, but he wasn't doing that. And mostly he was a bad guy. Like, he was a bad guy. So, I remember getting back in the comic books, I'm like, so now Deadpool's a good guy now? Because I was shocked, because, like I said, last time I read, he was a bad guy. He was just always messing with Cable. Anyway, just let me know in the comments if you guys remember reading that run. Was he breaking the fourth wall back then? Because I don't remember him breaking the fourth wall, but I could be misremembering too. So as we're flying off, we see that one WMDs, Wolverine and Mass Destruction, so cheesy, did survive. So Red Skull's dead, Zemo's dead, but Baron von Strucker, that's one Nazi that's still kicking. Innocence. So now we cut to New Orleans, and Wolverine is filling rogue again on exactly what happened. Because technically, he's still on the Uncanny X-Men, but I guess he's doing this on the side. Plus, he's also doing what he's doing with Wolverine stuff on the side. And it's just hard to keep up with this dude. Anyway, he thinks that this team is actually worth keeping around. You know, a mutant team that deals with non-mutant issues. So she's like, yeah, you know, it actually might be good. I mean, we can't have too many X teams. So what you gonna call yourself? X-Force? So as I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's too soon. It's too soon. So he whispered to her, and he's like, Weapon X-Men. And Deadpool was like, that's what I'm talking about. I heard you say it. Weapon X-Men. Woo! I'm gonna get the merch ready, and we're gonna get this party started. Man, he grabs Deadpool's like, didn't I tell you not to follow me? And didn't I tell you to keep your mouth shut? He's like, Rogue, darling, I gotta go because I gotta deal with this fool. As the issue ends. Support the comic book industry by visiting your local comic book store. My name is Dorian. This is SEM Comics. We continue our coverage of Weapon X-Men. Number 4. Our story starts off deep in the Atlantic Ocean, where we have a one submersible headed to a secret facility deep in the ocean. And now, since S.H.I.E.L.D.'s no longer a thing, one is now in charge of the domestic Hydra defense storage. And if you looked at the cover, which I don't know how you couldn't with a minute and a half intro, this is pretty much where they keep the Jaegers. Or Gundam, whichever side of the world you're on. Anyway, this dude is trying to show this new recruit the ropes, because he's only been there for 6 weeks. But this new recruit don't need to be shown the ropes. He pulls out his gun and shoots this dude right in the head. So now we got the Hell's Kitchen, where we're at one of Cable's many safe houses. And he's explaining how he sent an anonymous temp to the Pentagon to let them know about Hydra Island that's floating in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And somebody has to pick up all that raw before you get into the word. Come on, X laughing my ass off. You're up, Alright, according to this, it is Ada, Man, T, Ada, Man, T, There you go. That's your 15 seconds. Now, let me just say, the majority of you guys make this like a worthwhile experience. It's just a few And just what puzzles me is that if you don't like it, why don't you just go somewhere else? There are hundreds of millions of YouTube channels. There are all kinds of different social medias. Go somewhere else. Like, Jesus. Ah, man, you mismoved it. Anyway, so now that they got that figured out, now the concern is Thunderbird, because he took a beating on that island. I mean, a beating. And right now, he's in a makeshift ICU trying to recover. So Chambers is wondering, for one, what the hell his issue is. And for two, why was that issue in Latveria? Like, of all places, why there? So Cable's like, I don't know. But that's a damn good question to ask when he wakes up. So now Chambers is asking Cable, why is he here? Like, he doesn't feel like really a part of this team. He wants to go back to London. And Cable's like, no, you're an essential part of this team. And Chambers like, look, I've done the whole team thing. I've been an X-Man. It never works out. So why is this any different? And Cable's like, look, I'm from a future that might not even exist anymore. So I know a little something about wanting to belong somewhere. All I know is that in the future, this team is extremely important, and the way it's constructed has to happen. But then out of nowhere, there's an alarm from a local proximity sensor that goes off. And then Red Ronin just pops up out the water, looking like a Megazord. So he's walking through one of the 5 boroughs in New York, and this news helicopter comes flying right next to him. Which, I'm sorry, if I'm that pilot, there's no chance. There's no way in hell. And the reason being is exactly what happens. All of a sudden, this dude lifts off his arm, shoots the damn helicopter down, and then Cable has to use his telekinesis to catch it and lower it down. So then he tries to use his telepathy to see who's driving this damn thing. But unfortunately, there's a force field around it. He can't break through. And then we cut to Deadpool, who's in a cab, and he's telling the cab driver to drive to the location of the robot, which I'm the cab driver. I'm like, you lost your damn mind. I'd have been like, you could have the cab, I'd just say you robbed me. And one of the main reasons why Deadpool wants to get there is so he can officially pull out their battle cry, which is Weapon X-Men Forever. Now, this is definitely a nice Cable, because I don't know where the hell he pulled this damn thing out, but this thing is huge. He is like, might as well bust out the big artillery, because we need to take this thing down. We need to take this thing down now. So he shoots this big ass thing, and it does nothing. Force field's still intact. So he's like, all right, Chambers, you're up. And Chambers like, all right, see what I can do. He lets his power go, again, does nothing to the force field. So we know that it's a new recruit that's driving this thing. And Red Ronin's like, hey, the defenses are at maximum. And dude's like, you just handle the annoyances outside, and I'll get us where we need to go. So then Cable's like, Wolverine, where you at? And he's like, looking at the damn thing. Just give me a second, let me see what I can do. So he jumps from the building, makes it to the robot, slashes at him, and he actually is able to break through. So I guess, you ready to laugh my ass off? Adamantium is tougher than that big ass laser cannon, which I don't know how. So now Cable is able to use his telepathy and is like, yep, there is somebody driving it, and I know exactly where they're going. He's headed to Bellevue Hospital because his family's there. So I guess Cable's telepathy is kind of a two-way street, because now this dude knows where he is, and he shoots all these missiles at Chamber and Cable. While all that's going on, Wolverine has hacked and slashed his way into the robot, and he's like, I'm making my way up to the head now. And Deadpool is still stuck in traffic. So now another helicopter, this is a police one, that I guess either didn't see what happened to the news one, or I guess they don't have any choice, they have to go up there. Me, if I was a pilot, I'd have been like, oh, gotta call in Bill, because I'm sick. There's no way I can fly that damn thing. And of course, it got exactly what the news helicopter got. It got a little worse. Like I don't think there's no survivors in that one. So the Wolverine makes his way to the head. He sees the pilot. He gets him unhooked. And he's like, all right, you guys, this dude is no longer driving this thing. And Chambers wastes no time and hits this robot with a huge blast. And Wolverine's like, well, damn, you know I'm still inside there. And Cable's like, well, you better get your ass out because I'm about to bust out that big gun again. And that's exactly what he does. And sends another big ass missile straight to that robot. So it hits, and Wolverine was able to jump out right when it hit, whip the pilot, and he uses his claws to go down this building. And he's like, I should drop you right now. Like, you are so lucky I'm hanging on to you. So right before this robot falls and lands on probably thousands of people, uses his telekinesis and catches the robot and lays it down gently. He still probably killed a few people. Deadpool finally shows up and is giving Wolverine all kinds of grief. And then one shows up to give them even more grief. And my favorite one agent is here, Adrian Lundquist. So he starts popping off at the mouth, talking about, all right, you guys get the hell out of here because somebody's going to protect these people. It's going to be us. And Wolverine's like, are you serious? Like, what's your screening protocol? Because, you know, this dude was headed to his family. And we were like, yeah, we know. We found out later on that he was hiding it from us. That his brother's in Bellevue and he was piloting this thing when he fought the Avengers. Again, is that his fault for not telling you, or is that your fault for not checking with your girly beard? But anyway, they decide to head out and let one take over. And then Deadpool's like, so, where are we headed to? A mansion? A tower? And then Cable's like, I got something in mind. And it's a rundown steel facility. And Cable's like, I had this place for years. The level of tech in this place is phenomenal. And Deadpool's like, yeah, but it stinks. And Wolverine's like, shut up, Wilson. So they go to check on Thunderbird, and he's gone. And Wolverine's like, all right, let's look at security footage. And Cable's like, I don't have any security footage in here, but we don't need it because he used a computer and it's still warm. So he uses keystroke command recalls, and he's like, man, like my computer is not easy to hack into. So Thunderbird's a lot smarter than what he looks, or at least he's a lot smarter than what I give him credit for. So once he figures out, he's like, oh, this is crazy. And they're like, are we headed to Latveria? And Cable's like, no, it's even crazier because he's looking for Trevor Fitzroy. So we're about to get a double dose of the upstarts because they were in the mainline X-Men series. And now they're about to be in Weapon X-Men. You see the cover. It says, not a hoax, not a dream. In this issue, an X-Men dies. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but it's still a good story. Support the comic book industry by visiting your LCS. My name is Doran. This is SEO Comics. We are concluding our coverage of Weapons X-Men with number 5. Our story starts off with Wolverine, Deadpool, and Chambers, and they're in a time sled, and Wolverine is like, Wilson, watch what you're doing. And Deadpool's like, dude, we're in a time stream. It's not like we're on the Long Island Expressway. So Deadpool's like, engage in probability fields, temporal displacement increasing. And then Chambers like, how do you know all this stuff? And Deadpool's like, I read the manual. How else? So then Chambers like, we do know where we're going, right? And Wolverine's like, calm down, Chambers. We know exactly where we're going. Thanks to Trevor Fitzroy. So then we do a flashback where Wolverine, Cable, Chambers, and Deadpool have Trevor Fitzroy cornered, which is saying something because he's a teleporter. Not only can he teleport, but he can teleport like through time. So yeah, make it at what you will. And they're asking him where Thunderbolt's at. I guess Thunderbolt whooped the bejesus out of him, and then he gave Thunderbolt exactly what he wanted to. He sent them to a certain time. So the Wolverine's like, what time would that be? And Trevor's like, I'll gladly tell you, but I can't help you because, you know, when I send somebody, it's more of a one-way trip. And Wolverine's like, well, we got our ways to get through time. And then Trevor's like, what? You think he's going to help you? Talking about Cable. He was like, no, Cable's not going to help you on this one. So then we cut back to the headquarters, and Cable's like, you know what? Trevor nailed it. He's right. I can't help you. I can't go on this one. And then they're like, well, you're going to tell us why you can? And Cable's like, can't do that either. Just know that I can't, but I believe in you guys, and I know you'll get them back. So then Deadpool's like, all right, so if a resident time traveler is not going, then how the hell are we going to get back in time? And Wolverine's like, I might know a guy. And when he says he knows a guy, it's Ben Grimm. who is human because this takes place during One World Under Doom. So then Ben's like, I can let you borrow the time sled, but you gotta bring it back in one piece, and you gotta bring it back for somebody notices. Wolverine says, done and done. And if you've been reading comic books for long enough, you know those are some famous last words. So now that we're done with the flashbacks, which is saying something because they're actually going further back in time than when the flashbacks happen. Comics. So they finally get to the time where Thunderbird's at, and he's looking up at the Blackbird being shot down. And coming out of that Blackbird is Colossus, Cyclops, Banshee, Thunderbird himself, Wolverine, Storm, and Nightcrawler. So you know it probably smells like farts. Alright, I'll do it right. He BAM! So now it smells like farts. So everybody gets down safely, including Nightcrawler, who probably bamfed down. So now it smells like farts. Now, if you're wondering how far back in time they went, these events take place back in X-Men 95. That's issue 95, not like the TV show, which took place back in 1975. Now, I don't say this too often anymore, but that's before your boy was born. Now, they're there to stop Count Nefaria, which shows how old of a villain he is. He's taking control of a military base, and he has a weapon system called Doomsmith that he's threatening to use on the United States. So then we cut to Deadpool, Wolverine, and Chambers. They're hiding the time sled, and now Wolverine realizes exactly why they're there. So they ask him what's going on, and he explains about how they went on this mission to stop Count Nefaria, and how it didn't end well for Prowstar, which is Thunderbird, because this is the mission where he died. So they get to the secret base, and they're going in using like a back door, and then Wolverine's like, I can't go in there with you. And Deadpool and Chambers like, what do you mean you can't go in? So Wolverine's like, I'm already in there, and I can't meet my past self because I can mess up the time stream something awful. And Wolverine wouldn't know because when he went back in time to kill Hank Pym, he broke time, and it took him a while to fix it. So Wolverine's just like, look, trust me. If I go in there, one of us is going to kill the other, and that's not going to be any good. Go in there, stop Prowstar, our Prowstar, not the past Prowstar, and then let's get the hell out of here. So as soon as they go in there and they close the door, he sniffs, and then he goes, there you are. So while our old school X-Men are fighting their way to try to get the Count Nefaria, you got Chamber and Deadpool are making their way towards the hallways, which Deadpool's like, all military bases are designed exactly the same. Nothing but hallway after hallway after hallway. So then Chamber's like, you hear that? And he's like, yeah, sounds like the ocean. And sure enough, there's a bunch of water coming their way. So then Deadpool's like, so this is how Doomsmith works, huh? Maybe we should have stayed outside. So now Thunderbird walks up on Wolverine. Now this is our Thunderbird, or should I say present Thunderbird, not past Thunderbird. And he's like, you shouldn't have came here. And Wolverine's like, I can't let you do it, Thunderbird. So Thunderbird's like, no, you're not going to stop me. You see, this was my first and only mission with the X-Men, and I died. I got robbed of all this potential. And Wolverine's like, boo-hoo, cry me river. Everybody gets the short end of the stick eventually. But hey, you're back. So now you can make the most of it. Just not in the past. So then we cut to our old school X-Men. The old Wolverine is freaking out because there's a self-destruction that has been engaged, and he only got 9 seconds left. So then Chambers is like, well, you figured out how to do the time sled. Why don't you figure out how to stop this thing before we all die? And Deadpool's like, all right, let me figure something out. We have 6 seconds left. So somehow, some way, he does figure something out, and he stops the Doomsmith, and Professor Xavier uses his mental telepathy to let Scott know that, hey, Doomsmith is no longer concerned. Now all you need to do is stop Trevor Fitzroy. Not Trevor Fitzroy, Count Nefaria. I'm getting my bad guys mixed up. So then we cut back to Wolverine and Thunderbird, and they're going at it. While the old school Thunderbird is on a plane beating up the pilot, and Professor Xavier's like, you need to leave that pilot alone and get the hell out the plane. Banshee comes over to try to help, but Thunderbird ain't listening to nobody because he's hard-headed. So then we cut back to the Wolverine Thunderbird fight, And Thunderbird does almost like a Samoan drop, but he dropped him on his face instead of like on his back. So what we call that, like the Native American drop? Let me know in the comments what you would call this move. Me, I'm calling it the move that up Wolverine. Wolverine recovers and he starts tagging Thunderbird. Just with no claws, just fists that have aluminium bones. So yeah, those fists still hurt. So Wolverine is like, look, you just can't replace yourself. Like, you don't know how that's going to mess up the time stream. Like, you can cause like Armageddon out of nowhere just because you decided to live in a time where you weren't supposed to live. And besides, you're alive now, so come back with us to the future where you can still be an X-Man. And that kind of jolted Thunderbird to his senses. And then they look up and they watch and they see Thunderbird, old school Thunderbird, crash into the mountain and die. So Chambers and Deadpool get the hell out of there. Deadpool's proud of himself because he goes, I stopped Doomsmith. That means in the past, when this thing was about to go off, I'm the one who saved the day. Not the X-Men, me. And then they meet up with Wolverine and Thunderbird and they're like, all right, you back to your senses? Thunderbird's like, everything's okay now. So they're like, all right, well, let's get the hell out of here. So then we go to Hell's Kitchen where Wolverine is meeting with Cable at some old school diner. And Cable's like, sit down, I'll get you some coffee. Not as good as it used to be, but it's still okay. So then Cable's like, I'm assuming that the mission went good. Wolverine's like, yep, we worked everything out. And then Cable's like, so how'd you get back there? And he's like, an old friend let me borrow his time machine and we give it back to him in one piece. Pretty much. As we cut to Ben Grimm and he's looking at the time sled and it's all beat up. And he goes, that's what I get for being nice. So then Wolverine's like, you gonna tell me why you couldn't go back in time with us? And Cable's like, well, since you guys took care of the mission, I might as well go ahead and tell you. So the Wolverine's like, hold on, don't just tell me, as they walk outside to meet everybody else. So once they're all together, so then Cable's like, I finally discovered the true significance of why I'm here from the future. We five are destined to face a coming crisis. So then Wolverine's like, don't worry about it, Summers. When this destiny shows up, we'll be ready. So that's the end. So guys, let me know. Did you guys like this series? Did you not like this series? Obviously, they're going to continue it at some point. Who knows when that's going to happen, but I guess it's going to happen sometime in the future. Could that be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? Who knows? And the series that's taken this one's place is going to be Wolverines and Deadpools. I said it right. Wolverines and Deadpools. So it's Logan Wolverine, Laura Kinney Wolverine, and then it's Deadpool that we know and a lady Deadpool. I don't read enough Deadpool to know who she is. But we cover enough stuff on this channel and we are always behind. So I don't think we're going to be picking that story up.